Isabel's like, G.
Yeah, I know. I feel the same way.
Okay. The answer to your challenge is the elephants, after digging their hole, they will strip bark from a tree. So you could use bark too. They strip bark from the tree. They chew the bark into a ball. And then they put the ball over the hole and they cover the ball with sand.
Cool.
Yeah. Okay. The funny thing, my dad said when we were at home, because I was practicing this like a bunch, and my dad, he said, I'm gonna go into a farmer's farm, gonna steal PVC pipe, build a shelter over my hole.
Yeah.
I put the pipe there so I could drink it. Yeah.
Steel PVC.
Those materials aren't very accessible in the wild though.
Unless you're like right next.
Anyways, that's the reason I did not open my work yet, because the answer is in one of the sections. But before we get to that section,
Whoa, the elephant.
yeah,
Can I see?
Nice.
I modeled it after a picture.
I want to see.
I drew it, and then I colored it with color pencil, and then I did watercolor for the background.
Elephant.
Yep. Okay. First, let's cover some journal information. There are 3 species of modern elephant: the African bush, African forest, and the Asian. The differences are that the African is larger overall, has larger ears. Both the males and females have tusks. It has more of a concave back, and it has less hair than the Asian elephant. The Asian elephants, as I just said, have more hair. They're smaller overall, have smaller ears, and only the males have tusks. Elephants only have a lifespan of 50 to 70 years, and they're not born with survival instincts. The oldest ever recorded elephant was 82 years old. Mothers have to teach their young to survive and learn their place in the complex society of the elephant. And elephants have the largest amount of brain mass of all land animals. Speaking of the mothers teaching their young to survive, here is some society. Elephants have a matriarchal society, which means that the older females, or matriarchs, lead the group. Death is devastating to the group, and elephants do not forget for a long time. When an elephant dies, the other elephants will try to pick it up, and a researcher once witnessed an elephant trying to pick with their group. They're trying to pick up this other elephant, and this elephant's tusk breaks off up to the nerve. Yeah, ow. And that was the mother trying to lift up the other elephant, and she was the last one to leave, which shows a great deal of caring. Once they realize the other elephant is really gone, they will toss soil and plant matter and other resources they find over the elephant to bury it. And elephants will occasionally return to that spot when their group's passing through the area, even if it's not the group that had the elephant that died in it. Play. Elephants will entertain themselves with play. They will spray water from their trunks and roll around in the mud. A tree from the Boragitaceae family brings on labor or helps elephants have their babies when it is chewed. The female elephants have figured out how to do this, and they've taught the other elephants in the generations how to do this, and Kenyans have also figured out how to do this. Elephants use calls to keep in touch with each other. African elephants have a deeper rumble, while Asian elephants have a higher chirp. Infrasonic sound is used to communicate over long distances, which can be miles, and the bulbous on an elephant's forehead vibrates when it is making infrasonic sound. We cannot hear infrasonic sound because it is below the frequency of our hearing. Here are some evidence that elephants are intelligent. They use tools. They use sticks to rid themselves of pests such as flies and ticks, and they use rocks to damage or seriously cut off the electricity from electric fences in order to pass through them, which shows that they can adapt. Problem solving. Like I talked about earlier, they solved the problem of evaporation with their water source. The captive elephants have figured out how to plug their bells that go around their necks with mud in order to eat off-limits bananas, because at night they will sneak into the banana grove after they plug their bells, and they will eat all the bananas in the banana grove. It's true. They will clean off the extra soil on the grass by either shaking it down by their foot or rinsing it in water, multi-ways. Bandela, an elephant from Marine World Africa, USA, undid her shackles on her feet and then went over to help the other elephants in the enclosure, which showed that she had a great deal of caring and that she was willing to do that task again for another elephant. Elephants not only have their own language, but they seem to understand ours if they're around us long enough. Coco, a bull elephant, seemed to understand our language. He seemed to understand how words were used and what they meant. If his keepers verbally asked him to help transfer other elephants, he would. Here are some comparisons Here are some comparisons. One way to measure an animal's intelligence is to measure its pure brain weight. This gives a rough estimate of its intelligence. Comparing brain mass at birth to adult brain mass shows how much time in life the animal has to learn. A smaller percentage means the animal has more time in life to learn. Here are our learning period percentages. Humans with 28%, bottlenose dolphins with 42.5%, chimpanzees with 54%, and elephants with 35%. It is hard to use EQ, the encephalization quotient, or brain size compared to body size, to judge an animal's intelligence, because the tree shrew has the most. It doesn't seem very relevant. Here are some parts of the brain. The hippocampus is the center for emotion and contributes largely to PTSD, or post-traumatic stress disorder. This is what occurs in beings that have witnessed the traumas such as the murder of their families in elephants, and orphaned calves will sometimes starve themselves to death. They're so depressed they won't eat. Spindle neurons increase the speed of the thought process and play a major role in intelligence. Cetaceans, which are dolphins and whales, cetaceans ate both types of elephants, and humans have spindle neurons. If you were a female elephant and you were trying to get your calf out of a muddy stream, or you were a small elephant and you were trying to escape a predator, it would be helpful to be able to think fast, not just sit there and wait your dinner. The cerebral and temporal lobes are used for memory storage and are much bigger comparatively in elephants than in humans, which points to a good memory. The cerebral cortex is used for cognitive processing. The Asian elephant has the most. Here are some studies that scientists and keepers have done to prove that elephants are intelligent. Elephants seem to understand teamwork. They also seem to recognize themselves in mirrors. One experiment was when scientists painted two marks on an elephant's forehead. One was red and one was clear. They then proceeded to place a mirror in front of the elephant, and the elephant repetitively pointed to the red mark with her trunk, which showed that she wasn't merely smelling it or feeling it. She was seeing it in a mirror. An Asian elephant named Candela at the Washington, D.C. Zoo showed a great deal of problem solving. His keepers hung a piece of fruit up where he couldn't reach it, and he had a 20-minute session each day to try and figure out how to get it in order to devour it. Candela, on the 8th day, figured out how to reach his fruit. He went over to a plastic cube in his enclosure. He then rolled the cube under the fruit, stepped up on it to use it as a stool, and proceeded to grab the fruit, and then he ate it very happily. This shows that Candela could do a great deal of problem solving, and that he solved the problem very quickly. If you had a starvation problem, if you were an elephant or some other species, and the only food you could get was up high because the other creatures couldn't get anything and they had all died out, you would have a problem. You would need to be able to get the food up high, and he figured out how to solve that problem. Keepers had tried to give Candela other tools to use, but he wouldn't use them, like because if you think if your hand was your touch and your smell all in one, and you were trying to figure out a problem and someone gave you a stick to use or a baseball bat, it wouldn't be very helpful because then you would kind of be batting at a pinata except only using your sense of sight, not smell or touch, because then you couldn't really easily find it. The society, the evidence of elephants being intelligent, all the comparisons and studies that scientists have done, these all show that elephants are very truly intelligent. Thank you for listening.